Quilting Tale today, and Happy New Year. My name is Shaylin, and today I want to talk to you about my plan for 2023 and share an organizational tool that I created. So if you've been watching any of my progress videos from 2022, you know that I've been participating in a lot of quilt-alongs on top of just my own sewing projects I've been doing and other patterns I've been slowly piecing together, and I counted them up and there are 12 projects total. And so I thought 2023 is going to be the year that I get through and finish some of these projects. I don't mind working on more than one at a time, but I just want to feel like I'm getting some of them finished and getting some of those sticks out of the fire, as my mother-in-law would say. So I came up with a plan. It's kind of inspired by the Dave Ramsey debt snowball. I was just thinking about that idea of, making minimum payments on all your debts and ordering them from least to most, and then making as many payments as you can on the smallest, and then when that's paid off you roll over into the next until all your debt is paid off is the goal. And I thought, could you apply that same idea to quilting when you have all kinds of projects going on? And so for the projects I've selected, and like I said, there's 12 of them. These are all projects that I have started. So there's other ones that, I have fabric for, but I haven't cut anything out for. So I'm not even talking about those, but these are all projects that I've started the process of working on. And so I made a little organizational tool that I'll show you in a moment. And my idea is to figure out which ones should be quickest to finish and which ones would take the most time, and just get those quicker ones out of the way so it doesn't feel so overwhelming like I have so much going on. So instead of the progress videos where I show a little bit of each project that I've been working on, a few blocks here and there, I'm hoping this year I'll be showing you some finished projects, or at least getting really close to finishing some of them each time I share a progress video. So I'll have you come in closer and take a look at this document that I made.
So this is a 2-page document, and there are, I believe, 14 slots to list your quilting projects. If you need more than that, you could just print more of page 1 here. I will say this is meant for traditional piecing. I'm not sure this would work as well with English paper piecing or applique, for example. Those are ones I don't do as often, or I've never done English paper piecing. But you'd list your projects here, and then you can see across the top I have different categories. So if you still need to cut the pieces, how many blocks you have left to make, multiplied by the time it should take for those blocks. And you'll notice that this is in blue here. It's shaded because these two go together. And the dots are just a means of shading in, one dot if it's something that's simple or quick or kind of not necessarily beginner level, but just something that isn't going to be as time consuming. So each dot would be a point. If something is very complex or time intensive, you might shade in all 3. And of course this is all subjective. You'd have to think about it in terms of your other projects. But I'll show you this more close how the math would work for that. If you have pieces to make for your setting, that's something to factor in. And then just stitching rows together or finishing the top, whatever that might entail. Preparing the backing and batting. And then I put binding. You'll notice I didn't put the actual quilting of the quilt on here. I tend to send mine off to long armors, but I don't always do that. I have several tops just waiting, because it is an expense, and so I didn't want that being something that holds up the process here. But there is an other category, so if that's something you're planning on machine quilting your quilt at home, or hand quilting it, or anything else like English paper piecing, or you're doing something special with applique, whatever it might be, you could factor that into other. And then there's a column for the total points. Once you get the points, for each project, then you can build your quilt queue, and that's just kind of the line or the order that you're going to complete them in. And so there's little check off boxes here. I don't know how well the little check boxes are showing, but you could list them from the ones with the fewest points, that's the least amount of time, down to the most. And there's several spots, I think about 17 there. I also put a time sensitive spot there because I know sometimes you have a gift or something. For example, I'm doing those truck of the month, so I'll want to get my January truck done soon. Maybe you're trying to get your quilt into a show or a fair, or you need it for work purposes to be done by a deadline. So you can kind of jump the line by putting them in here. So let me show you what my document looks like all filled out here. You don't have to color code. I just like using different color pens. That's the teacher in me. So I listed the names of all the quilt patterns I'm working on. And you'll notice some of these are blank because all I have left to do is the binding. Or this one, the Glam Girl quilt, I have binding, and I need to embroider a little handkerchief that's going to go in an envelope in the quilt. And so I'll share what that looks like in a different video, but those ones should be relatively quick. It's just 1 and 2 points here. And then I have some quilts like this. Layers of Love is a pattern I'm working on, and it's not actually blocks but strips that are made of different pieces. And so I said there's 24 strips and they're pretty quick to piece, so that one was worth 24 points. If it's something bigger like Moda Blockheads 4, because I do those one block at a time, and you can't really do a bunch of batch cutting where you cut several pieces all at the same time because each block is different. I put that one kind of in between with 2 dots here. I have 9 blocks left, and they vary in difficulty, so I put in between here. So 2 dots times 9 blocks is 18. So for my blue column here, I'm going to do 18 points. Plus 2, plus 3, plus 2, 1, and 1 is 27. And you can see on the sides I've been making little notes if there's something in particular I want to remember about this project. Part of the reason I want to start getting these projects finished is I'm worried that I'll forget there's something important to consider or something I wanted to do in a project, and so I want to keep those notes and not forget. So I want to just be more focused on one project at a time. Not every quilt I'm doing has a setting I need to make pieces for, like the Swoon quilt that I'm working on. I have 4 blocks left, and it's just a matter of sewing those 9 blocks together. There's not a border or anything. So that one is blank, and it's just sewing the blocks together, so finishing the top should go fairly quickly. But those blocks have more pieces, so when you're factoring in the time, even if you have fewer blocks, you know, some of them have multiple pieces, or sometimes the piecing is more complicated. So those are all things to factor in when you're thinking about your time. For batting and backing, some of my quilts, like the Heartfelt quilt along, I had all those bonus blocks I was sharing as I was making those blocks from Fat Quarter Shop, and I wanted to make a design with those half square triangles and hourglass blocks that I was making, and I haven't forgotten about that, but that's going to be a little more time intensive because I need to make a design for that. And so that's part of other, is creating the design, and then piecing the backing isn't going to be, you know, just putting, you know, 2 large pieces of fabric together. That's going to take more time. To give you an idea of some things I've put in the other category, embroidering a hanky, typing the pattern if it's one that I'm making. For this one, my Pacific Northwest quilt, there's going to be a lot of setting pieces involved. I plan on making snail trail blocks and filler rows to go around the blocks that I'm making. If something's really heavy with aligning seams, I know that's going to take a little more time to get the setting pieces accurate and looking nice. My ombre puff quilt isn't really blocks, but it's stuffing the little pockets and then hand tying the batting and top together. So as you can see, there's a lot of things to factor in, and it is subjective. You have to kind of weigh if it's simple or complex or in between for each category, just depending on what's going on with your other projects. But you can see my points, I didn't put these in any particular order. I just kind of looked at my design board at each set of blocks I had up there and just looked at how many blocks I had left to go, and so I was able to come up with these point values. So the ones that have the lowest I ranked at the top. They're going to be the first ones that I do that I can hopefully cross off right away, and it'll feel good to get those done, all the way down to the most, which is my Pacific Northwest quilt, which I'm designing all from scratch and have a lot of plans for it, but need to figure out how to execute each block. So that one will definitely take the most time. It actually tied with Socialites too, which all those blocks haven't even been released yet. But just knowing how many blocks there's going to be, there's 24 total, and I've only done one. So I know I have 23 small 3-inch blocks to do, which will also take some time, but I felt like that one would still be a little quicker than the one that I'm planning. So even though they're tied, I put Socialites 2 on top there. And then the ones that are going to get to cut the line, my truck of the months, and I'm sure I'll get February on there too, and March as I get closer. If I haven't gotten through, I'm sure I won't be through my queue here, but I'll add those. There's room for more. And I'm also making a little book bag as a gift. So lots of projects, and hopefully this will help me start finishing them. And finish might not mean all the way through binding. They all involve binding, but at least getting the backing and batting prepped for the long arm at some point. So binding doesn't push one of these projects over another, because they all need it eventually, even if I might not get to that part before starting another project, because like I said, there's a big cost associated with long arming multiple quilts. So that's what mine is looking like, and so you kind of get a little glimpse at what my future videos will entail, sharing some of these and maybe some tips or techniques for how I'm completing these tops. So there's a little glimpse of my 2023.
If you're feeling a bit like me and you're just ready to start crossing some projects off the list and get that list of projects to a more manageable size, I hope you'll consider giving this document a try, seeing if it helps you figure out which projects really take the most time, which ones would be quicker to check off your list, and maybe make yourself a quilt queue as well to start ordering those projects. I know one of my goals this year is to buy no more new fabric unless it's to finish off an existing project, and I feel pretty confident that I have the fabric that I need to finish. I think I might have a little bit of sashing here or there, or something that I still might need to pick out, but my goal is not to buy fabric for any more new projects. I'm gonna have to turn my blinders on for a bit to other quilt-alongs that come up. There's so many, and it doesn't mean I won't, save them for later and have a folder of them ready to go when I get to a more manageable size. But really, I want 2023 to be about finishing what I've started, and so that's the goal. And to help you and just say thank you for subscribing and being a viewer, for the first week of January, this document will be free on my website to download if you use the code HAPPY23, all one word. And if you are outside of the United States, thank you for watching as well. I love to hear that people from other countries are watching my channel. That's awesome. I know sometimes on my site from the free downloadable pattern that for some reason I can't figure out in the settings why it doesn't download outside of the United States. So if you run into that issue, please email me through my website, aquiltingtale.com, and I'll be sure to email you the PDF for that. Like I said, it is free for the first week of January. So I hope you'll check it out and take advantage of that. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to showing you some finished projects soon.